Hello everybody, and welcome to the second episode of the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Steel Ball Run reviews.
Oh yeah, baby.
So, last time we talked about the first two volumes of Steel Ball Run.
Yes.
And this time we were talking about the second two volumes of Steel Ball Run.
It's almost like we're going to keep this two-volume series.
No, well, next time I'm going to do three, but...
Kill me.
We'll figure it out.
All right.
Well, here's the thing. These first four volumes seem to have about 6 chapters each, right? This time I think we're going from, 12 to 23?
Yes, that's exactly correct.
Right? And that's exactly correct. That's a great way of phrasing it. And then, the next volume has 4 chapters, and then 2 after that have 3 each.
Yeah.
So... I don't know. We'll figure it out. As per usual, we've got host Jaden here.
Yeah, I'm the one presenting this time around.
Being that he actually knows what Steel Ball Run is, and I don't.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Okay, so before...
So what do you want to say?
Before we begin, at the time of recording, Part 6, the anime has just finished, which means that it's only a matter of time before the Part 7 anime gets announced.
I actually found a Twitter account I started following that every day, it counts on every day that Steel Ball Run hasn't been announced. We're on day 4 right now.
Awesome.
So we are literally recording this right after it's ended.
Yeah, so...
This will probably go up in, about a month or 2? I don't know.
Yeah, so maybe by the time we finish this series, we may get a glimmer of hope. Probably not.
Well, at this point, this glimmer of hope looks to be a really bad glimmer of hope. But we'll get into it. All right. So, starting at not volume 12. That's a little while away.
Yeah,
Chapter 12,
Chapter
right?
12.
Take it away, Jaden.
Volume 3. Okay, so... As we all know, Steel Ball Run's written by Hirohiko Araki, and last time we ended off, there was this big horse race, obviously. It's a Steel Ball Run. If you've watched the last video, you know what's going on. And so,
They had just finished up to 1,500 meters, right? The first...
Gyro had just barely passed the finish line, the volume ends like that. And so then we cut to that Gyro won by a horse length, and he won a 10 grand prize and a 1-hour time bonus.
I really hope, because I'm pretty sure, there's 9 parts to this?
Yeah, 9 stages.
Yeah, 9 stages. I really hope this time bonus stuff has really got me interested for how it'll be used.
Yep.
Because knowing just how writers like this, right? I know some writers what's his name? Why am I blanking?
What does he write?
Fairy Tail, Eden Zero.
I'm not sure.
Hiro Mashima. We all know that Hiro Mashima would write this big complex thing and then just have it mean nothing at the end, right? But then we know writers like Kohei Horikoshi and Oda would make a great deal out of this, right?
That's the thing. Araki is a very much Chekhov's pistol writer, which if you don't know what that is, that means whenever there is a important story element that's mentioned, it's going to be used.
Yeah, something that's set up in plot 1 will happen in part 3.
Yeah.
Right?
All right.
That's totally not how it works, but...
So, after that, we get the nice money shot of Gyro bending over. It's a very famous pose.
Going back to Chekhov's gun, eventually here, I'm gonna make us read the Hunter's Guild Red Hood, where there is literally a gun that the main character gets. That is Chekhov's gun.
Nice.
All right. Okay, continue on, Jade.
So, we find out that second place was Sandman, third place was Poco Loco, and fourth was Diego. And Diego's pissed. He says, "Fuck this guy."
and then Johnny was 5th, right?
I think Johnny was 5th or 6th, yes.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Johnny was a horseback behind.
Yeah, I think Mountain Tim was 5th, actually.
Yeah, something like that.
But anyways, they reveal that there's a point system to determine the winner. So it's kind of like Mario Kart. So you play all the tracks, and your placings in each track get you points, and the points at the end are what matters. So you ain't got to get first every time. And even if you're not first place at the end...
But that first place helps you with money and bonuses.
Because first place in points is worth double second place.
Yeah.
So that'll be important later.
Oh, really? Really?
And so then we cut to Steven Steele talking to a man, and the man says that Gyro's from some foreign country, and they found information about him. And he's been sent here by some royal palace or something, which is very odd as to why he'd be here. And then it was announced that Gyro actually got a big penalty for hitting Sandman. He threw his ball at him, he caused him to trip up and get hurt, so he gets penalized.
He went down to 21st.
He lost 20 places, which is ridiculous.
So that means that Sandman gets the hour time bonus, right?
Yeah, so Sandman was technically the winner. And it shows actually the scorecard of all the
I really like that scorecard.
There are so many references.
Because a book series I've read before, it was the Arc of a Scythe trilogy by Neil Shusterman, right? There's this whole thing at the end about traveling to different planets, and it's a big convoluted thing, right? And then there's 7 pages of just space charts, which because there's something relating to like how far planets are apart, and it's just so cool. You've got the planet named, a sector of the universe it's in or whatever, and it's like this really just 7 pages of just tables. And this just having a table in it, right? Like, I don't get all the references like you do, because I'm guessing these are references not to other series, but to other parts.
A lot of them are references to other parts, and a lot of them are also song references, like Mrs. Robinson and Ghost Rider in the Sky. There's so, like, I could go all day about just the references in this. And there is another character, Norisuke Higashikata, which will be important maybe a part or 2 later. But we'll get to that if we get to that. And so then we see Gyro tries to intimidate Steven Steele in some kind of way. He's pissed off.
Yeah, because Steven Steele comes over. No, Gyro goes over to him.
Yeah, and he takes his ball and sets it on the table and just starts spinning it for some unknown reason. And Steven Steele's like, dude, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm just pissed, that's all. And he walks away. And Steven Steele's like, oh, we got all this nice champagne we can pour now. Poo, 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 poo. And they all start shooting off.
Yeah, this is like one more thing I don't like about Gyro. Like, he's such a dick. He didn't have to do this, right? He could just went up to Steven Steele and been like, hey, fuck you, man. He didn't have to go over and just wreck everything. It's like, why? Why did he feel compelled that he had to do this?
And it gets worse because one of those corks strays off and hits the water tower right beside him in the middle of the desert. So I thought that was a pretty good thing. And we see Gyro talking to Johnny, and Johnny actually grabs one of the corks and sees it spinning. He has it in his hand, it's spinning around, and Gyro says, it's time for lesson 2, work those muscles. So basically, he wants like Johnny to learn how to control his muscles to use the spin. And so he has this, Johnny has this cork in his hand, and he touches the horse and actually rotates himself off of it because, it's still going. And that's about all for that. And then it cuts to Mountain Tim investigating an area, and there's entrails wrapped around a gun.
Whoa!
And he's like, there's no interference until the murderers are found.
Whoa!
That was all of chapter 12. These chapters are long, and they have a lot of content in them.
Yeah, I told Janie should have gotten here earlier to record, but you know what? He said, we'll do this in 45 minutes.
Yeah, we're on good pace.
I really don't think we are. All right.
Okay.
13.
All right, so chapter 13, Steven Steele says the race cannot stop.
Because Steven Steele goes, because there's been these murders, right?
Yeah.
Steven Steele comes over, checks it all out, pretty much proclaims, hey, race has to go on, as Mountain Tim comes over.
Yeah, Mountain Tim shows up.
Because Mountain Tim is friends with like the police officer, and he's riding the race, and Mountain Tim has experience on getting far on a horse while also tracking down bad guys. Because he's a mountain boy.
He's the typical sheriff.
He's a mountain man.
And Mountain Tim mentions that this murder looks like something that happened on Indian land where there was tainted soil, and somebody may have gained a mysterious power that caused it.
This is the beginning of throughout the rest of these volumes. We are reading these scanlations off of Mangadex, right? In these translations. Every single time there's like power of mysterious. It's in bold
red with quotations.
No, for me it's just in bold with quotations around it.
Yeah.
And it's just every single time mysterious power, devil's palm. It's just these quotations.
That's definitely one of like the strangest parts about the scanlation. There's another one where Johnny goes, "What a queer," and queer's highlighted.
Really?
Yeah. It's so strange.
Hey, I would understand if like maybe in the Japanese like that character is bolded, right? Or like those katakana or kanji, right? But it's just every little part here. It's like every time.
Sentence. It's every box.
Exactly, and like every time it's just like a mysterious power, or I call these stand.
Anytime there's like a semi-proper noun, it's highlighted.
Or anytime there's something that should be mysterious that they definitely need you to catch on to, it's bottom.
Alright. So this goes next to the second stage, which is crossing the Arizona Desert Monument Valley, which is a giant desert with very little water.
Yeah, the thing I liked about this is like this is actually like proper on their own. They've got to make it here. It's not this like 1,500 meters like fast race. It's expanded and long. Yeah. I like that.
Yeah, and they gotta find water holes if they're gonna survive this area. They've got to take paths that'll get them water, because otherwise they're gonna die. And
what does Gyro do?
Gyro decides to take the ridiculous path. But we'll get that in just a second. He sees Mountain Tim, and Gyro, with his, says, "What a weird hat. That guy's hat's weird." you know, just as I thought that was funny because Mountain Tip just has a standard cowboy hat, and Gyro has this random thing with cuts in it.
Last episode we talked about Steven Steele, and we talked about his hat.
Yeah.
That's not a hat. Steven Steele has a toupee.
Yeah.
That is not a hat.
Yeah, but it's just a dome. It's not even like hair. It's just like it's on the edge.
I don't. That's a toupee. I don't care.
It looks like it's made out of clay.
Yes, it does.
So, we see that Johnny's actually able to start trying to spin the cork, and he's actually barely starting to get the hang of it.
And every time he's like, "Hey, Gyro, look at me,
Yeah.
please, acknowledge me."
And as they're deciding what paths to go on, Gyro decides, you know what? We're gonna go on the dangerous path. It's gonna be 150 kilometers to the nearest water hole.
Because what Johnny says is like, this is going to be a race for water holes.
Yes.
Whoever controls the water holes is going to help control this race. And there's this path with the water holes, which they could get to first, being they are the main characters.
Yeah.
They've got plot armor. But they got to take the shortcut.
Yeah. And if they miss the shortcut by just a little bit, it could completely set them off the path.
Yeah.
And that's basically where chapter 13 ends. It ends with them just running off, and the spectators are like, what in the world are these two doing?
Yep.
So then we get to chapter 14, where they're just sitting around, having a good time.
Riding their horses across the desert of the United States of America.
Bam! Gyro gets shot.
Yeah, in 3 places, his ear just starts falling off.
His ear just starts falling off. And Johnny and Gyro realize this might be a trap from these cactuses that are lying around. Because there's these cacti that are nearby that shoot their spikes. So somebody may have set them up.
Yeah, it's a proximity thing.
Yeah.
If they have a stimuli that reacts with the area, they fire, and whenever they fire, it hurts.
And they keep getting hit by these needles all over the place until eventually Johnny gets knocked off his horse. And Gyro's like, you gotta get back on, that's what they're trying to do to you. It'll become a very common theme that the best way to defeat Johnny is to cripple him. I mean, I feel like that's the main technique of all of them. And Johnny says, I'll catch up to you when my eyes stop bleeding, because he's got shot like near the eyes.
Yeah.
And
Or
he's
he's just got blood all in him. Or he's like, my eyes are fine, it's just I need to wipe the blood out so I can, see?
Yeah, and Johnny tells Gyro, we're rivals, we're in this race, but we're still competing, so you go on ahead. And he said, yeah, I'll go forwards towards that son of a bitch, and runs
That
towards
was
him.
awesome. That's really cool. It's like, I'll go forwards, murdering that son of a fucking bitch.
I think that's one thing JoJo does well is the dialogue. I think the dialogue can be very, very natural, because Araki said whenever he writes stuff, he writes it as if he was actually talking.
Yeah.
You know, he doesn't.
It's a cool moment, I mean.
But Gyro has conviction. He is very resolute, and he's gonna help Johnny, and he's determined to do that. That's gonna be a very important character trait of Gyro. And we see that Gyro can see Mrs. Robinson, which is the person they're fighting against, and then flies start pouring out of his eyeballs.
Sure. I mean, it's a cool power in my opinion,
It's
right?
so
Like
weird.
being able to breed flies in your eyes and send them out. It's all right.
So this guy is a Native American, and he's able to breed flies and have them live inside of his body and control them. And they're the ones hitting on these cacti, and basically he's controlling the field with the environment around him.
Cool.
Which is interesting, but very, very weird. And Gyro is able to knock him down with his balls, which we will see is a very common theme as well. Do you remember how he knocked him down?
Robinson.
Yeah,
No.
because I completely forgot. I
don't know. He used his balls somehow, and his balls knocked him down.
Yeah, I think. Okay.
Does it really matter that much how much Gyro uses his balls?
Yeah. But then it cuts again. There's a lot of cutting between the main plot and the B plot, which is finding this murder mystery.
Yeah.
And
Because Mountain Tim's walking around, and he finds these horseshoes that have like this mountain perch in the middle of them, right?
And he says the suspect is near, probably within 30 minutes of the area. And that's where chapter 14 ends.
All right, 15. I really think we're behind, Jaden.
Chapter 15. We see a flashback of this kid getting sentenced to death on account of potential treason. Basically, he overheard some government revolution. Apparently, yeah. And as a result, they got to kill him. Cuts back.
Yeah, it's. We'll get into this more here whenever the chapters get later on.
So Johnny and Gyro are sitting around a fire, and Johnny is like, "Watch this, I can spin it." And then he spins it away, and he loses it. And Gyro's like, "Yeah, show me again." I'll have to watch it all
if
the
we
time."
forgot, Mr. Robinson's dead.
Oh yeah, they killed him.
Yeah. Gyro killed Robinson with his balls.
Yeah.
That sounds so bad.
So we're gonna keep saying that throughout all 24 volumes of this, dog. I mean, it's just a matter of the steel ball run. But Johnny's trying to find the cork, and lo and behold, it pops out a little moist out of the horse's bum.
Wait, it does?
Did you not realize that?
No.
He shot it up the horse's ass, and then it pops back out.
Why? No. Why? That is an unnecessary plot detail. It's like whenever you're reading a series that, like, I'm watching Summertime Rendering right now, right? And as I'm watching this every so often, we just gotta get a shot of the main girl's ass.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
just like, it's not necessary.
They do that shit in Dr. Stone too.
Just
with
continue
Kohaku.
on. Yes, but there, it's not dwelled on for 5 minutes straight as
Okay.
characters are talking.
Okay.
It just pains. It's like certain things like this. It's just like, why? Why? Like,
Alright.
it doesn't need to be happening? Okay, just continue on.
Anyways, Johnny actually sees Gyro's papers that are spilling out of his bag, and it's kind of like a news clipping about, and it says, GY something something something, mad over blah 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 blah.
Pretty much, we see this boy's picture who
Yeah.
we saw earlier who gets sentenced to death.
And it's related to Gyro somehow.
Yeah. And Gyro's being a big dick about, like, don't look at my shit, little boy.
Yep. And then a man approaches with his fingers coming off from some insect bite. He's like, help me, I need
Yeah,
the
they're all
fire."
puffed up and, like,
And Gyro's like, dude, there ain't no way we're gonna believe you. We'll give you a single piece of firewood to burn it off.
yeah, and then this dude just goes, and he's like, oh, that'll be great, thank you. As he goes and chokes himself to stop the bleeding.
No, he chokes himself as anesthesia, so he's like less conscious of what's going on. And he says,
And
I always let the girls strangle me.
And then he, like, faints as Gyro throws over this stick to him as this guy screams like he's dead, as he literally seems like he's gonna die.
Yeah. And his name is Andre Boom Boom.
Oh, good jeez. Why? Why?
And we learn that there are actually 3 Boom Booms.
There are 2 brothers and a father, if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah,
right?
that are all in the race.
And what are their names? Like LA Boom Boom?
LA Boom Boom, Andre Boom Boom, and I forgot the other one. But anyways, we
I
then
just remember LA because it's stupid.
we then see Gyro gets his boot cut and eventually gets stabbed by a knife. He gets stabbed
Just
by the bloody knife.
Mysteriously as can be.
Yep.
Right, he just, yeah.
And that's where chapter 15 ends.
Yeah.
All right.
Next time, Johnny pulls out his gun.
On to chapter 16, which will be the last of volume 3. So we get a nice foot shot of Gyro's feet torn open with the boot.
And then Gyro's like, what's going on? As Johnny pulls out his gun.
Pulls out his gun.
And Gyro's like, I've never shot one of these things before. He goes to shoot Andre Boom Boom as he pulls out his gun, and before he can even do anything, the gun's nuts and bolts just fall
It
apart.
just fucking falls apart.
And then all of the parts of the gun sink into Gyro's foot.
Yeah, everything's being pulled towards Gyro. And whenever Gyro tries to throw a ball at Andre,
Yeah, one of the steel balls.
yeah, he throws the ball and it actually starts shredding. It starts like peeling away and becomes smaller.
And also, as we sort of figure out, this is a magnet-based ability, right?
Yeah.
A ability based on iron.
Yeah.
And being that, well, they're steel balls.
Yeah. So probably what happened was because it was rotating, it was being repelled, and so it ripped it. And
Good old chemistry.
Gyro believes they have something special about them. They have some ability.
They've got some mysterious, in bold letters with quotation marks, power.
Yeah. And Gyro actually is able to see the stand come out behind Andre, and this is very important because in JoJo, I know you haven't read any of the prior parts.
Yeah, you can't see a stand unless you have one,
unless you
right?
have one. So,
I didn't even notice there was a stand that came out from behind this man.
yeah, all those weird designs that always just pop up behind people.
There's one of those.
Yeah.
Huh.
And so then we cut to the Boom Boom family just bickering and doing ridiculous
Yeah,
crap.
the 2 that seem to be alive, the LA and then
Yeah.
I'm gonna call him
Father and son Boom Boom and Andre.
No. Andre, LA, and weird. The guy who becomes Johnny later.
Okay.
Johnny Boom Boom.
Johnny Boom Boom. All right. So we see that the one of the Boom Booms can actually fold his ear into itself, which is a Part 5 reference, just a random reference to previous parts.
See, I didn't even get that, which.
Yeah. And as they're fighting, Gyro's able to hit Andre with his steel ball by doing something pretty smart. Well, he doesn't hit it with the ball. He throws it, and he kicks up rocks, and those rocks shoot into him.
Because rocks are not iron.
Yep.
Thus, they're fine.
Yeah, and Gyro says, man, these guys are bizarre, as they continue fighting.
Oh my gosh, Jane, it's almost like it's a part of the title drop.
Oh, I love whenever they say, this is bizarre. They say it like once every part. It's great.
Like, just once?
Just once or twice most.
Just once.
It's like how in Star Wars they always say I have a bad feeling about this. They got to drop the bizarre somewhere. And that's where Volume 3 ends.
I feel like one day we seem to do an entire just talk about whatever title drops happen in the series.
Okay.
Because there are so many bad ones, and there are so many stupid ones, right? Like Dr. Stone. Do you know how many items are referred to as Dr. Stone and Dr. Stone?
Zuko, you're the Dr. Stone!
Alright, soap's a Dr. Stone. Hey, look at that! The Medusa's a Dr. Stone.
Yeah.
It's everything. And then you've got other series. I can't even get started on it.
Okay.
Because we've got to do this.
Alright. So, I think this volume was pretty good. I think the Boom Boom fight is honestly pretty interesting. And it's especially interesting to see how Johnny and Gyro can fight without stands. For now.
We'll get into it. Just let's finish the Boom Boom stuff.
Okay. So we find out...
Well, to finish the Boom Boom stuff, we have to finish... What castle? World 8 castle? No, that's normally Bowser.
What are you talking about?
Mario. You know, like new Mario games? Boom Boom.
The towers?
Towers?
I'm pretty sure they're towers.
I don't know.
Whatever. Anyways, chapter 17. We learned for sure that this is a magnetic power, if it wasn't obvious enough.
Yeah. It's pretty much whenever the 3 Boom Boom siblings get around each other,
yeah,
they can create a magnetic field around them.
Basically they triangulate and create a field.
Triangulate.
And so the father actually shoots Andre to get Andre's blood onto Johnny and Gyro because the blood's magnetic and whatnot. And he's also able to alter his face by stuffing metal in it. This is actually a reference to part 6, maybe?
That's another reference?
Oh, dude.
This is not just like an original power?
No. And they talk about how they got their ability from somewhere. They just happened to get it. And they're like, this is great. I can't believe I have this. And so,
this mysterious, in bold quotation marks, power!
So he's disguised as Johnny, and Mountain Tim comes up and...
Okay, I think we've tried some.
Okay.
Pretty much Gyro and Johnny have gotten away at this point, right? And the Boom Boom brothers are just all there. They pretty much put the Andre's blood on Johnny and Gyro so they can track him here later, right? And the Data Boom Boom turns into Johnny with this iron sort of power, right?
And the goal is to
trick,
trick
because we see that the pins that these horseshoes are definitely from the Boom Booms, right? They aren't from Johnny or Gyro, right? So Mountain Tim's, or he's trying to trick Mountain Tim into all of this stuff, do stuff.
Yeah. And so Mountain Tim actually reveals his ability,
which is turned into a rope.
He can move his own body along his lasso. And his stand is...
Okay, that's what it is. I thought it was just that, like, he can... In Bleach, there's this sword called Zabimaru. Pretty much what it does is it extends itself, right? I thought that's sort of how this was. Like, he can sort of, like, okay, from my hand, I'll send a rope out, and I can send my fingers and all of that through it. In my opinion, how I thought it worked was, okay, he'll send this part out, and then it can only go so far because he's only got so many appendages to space out through it.
But yeah, it's basically, he has a lasso that he can extend his body among. Whether his lasso is part of his ability or not, I'm not exactly sure. I'm not sure if it's a physical item.
Because I always thought it was.
Yeah. Because some people, like Whole Horse from part 3, his stand is literally a gun. He conjures a gun.
It's sort of like in Hunter x Hunter, where people can be conjurers, but they can be manipulators, and they can manipulate items around them, but it has to be a physical item, or they conjure a special nin item in the force of the battle.
And so, Mountain Tim is able to see that Johnny's basically the killer, and he has to chase after Johnny and Gyro.
Because now this Johnny has... He just runs away, right? And he goes to hide, and then Mountain Tim finds the actual Johnny and Gyro.
And the goal is that when all 3 of them come together, the magnetic powers of the Boom Boom family will basically just crush them all.
Crush them all, right? So we get this very ominous image of Mountain Tim sort of running towards Gyro and Johnny, as Homer's like, oh my gosh, hey, we gotta stop this, right? Because at this point, Johnny and Gyro sort of realize that they are getting pulled towards Mountain Tim.
Yeah, that happens in the next chapter.
Oh, well, let's get to it.
So yeah, so at chapter 18, Johnny's being pulled towards them, and he's like, "Oh crap! If we get too close,
Because first Johnny and Gyro are almost touching, right?
Yeah.
They manage to avoid it with the power of Gyro's balls, but then Mountain Tim starts running towards.
Yeah. And so Johnny and Gyro Gyro has the genius idea of taking his balls and spinning it and hitting a mountainside that has magnetic rock in it. And so when it falls down,
It'll hit
all of them.
Yeah, it'll hit all of them, right? But this will also let Mountain Tim know something's going up.
But the main idea was to knock him off his horse, basically, prevent him from getting closer.
Yeah.
And that's what happens. I mean, it knocks him off, and he's able to slow down with the lasso, basically.
I mean, for as much crap as I've given Gyro through all of this, he's a pretty smart dude.
Every main JoJo is very intelligent. I mean,
Gyro's not a main JoJo.
But yeah, he uses his steel balls in very creative ways.
Yeah, it makes sense.
I think that's one thing that JoJo does well, is it takes such good use of the environment around them and the circumstances.
That is literally World Trigger. It takes perfect, like, if they're battling in a city, it takes perfect use of the items around a city to make a cool battle.
Alright. And so Mountain Tim slows down with the lasso, and he realizes that he was tricked, and something happened.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Tell me about the actual suspect and what really happened."
And then Johnny like, the boom booms.
Yep.
They exist.
So that's,
And Mountain Tim allies with.
Yeah, so that's chapter 18. Now on to chapter 19. It's time for another flashback, baby.
The Devil's Palm.
So we get to learn about the Devil's Palm and how Mountain Tim was basically in the army when he was in this Devil's Palm area. This was mentioned earlier, but we forgot to mention it.
Yeah, it's a part of geography that just sort of exists around, right? It moves around. It doesn't stay in one place.
Yeah, so it's this very strange phenomenon that can just shift and move all the time.
And it gives people the powers, which Mountain Tim calls a stand.
I call this a stand, which it took 19 chapters to get a mention of a stand. That is like a fifth of the story. That's crazy.
Great.
Just thought I'd let you know that.
I mean, it's really interesting. I mean, I really like this idea of the Devil's Palm, but in my mind, does that mean every character in this series who has a stand has gone through the Devil's Palm?
There's also multiple of them.
Okay.
I think there's assumed to be.
Okay.
And they're constantly just shifting and moving.
Because in my mind, it's like, if this Devil's Palm just exists in the desert, that means everybody's got to come through this area, somehow end up in it to get a stand.
But there's another thing, is that Mountain Tim mentions something about a kind of gravity that brings users together. And so people who have stands are attracted to other stand users.
Each other, yeah.
So
our stand users.
That's basically,
this is something that I've known about JoJo for a while.
And it basically allows them to circumvent the idea of, wow, what a coincidence, it's happened to meet another one. It's because they are drawn together by some unnatural power. And so basically, Johnny, Gyro, Mountain Tim are all being tied down by magnetic sand.
I really like this use of manipulating magnetic sand to get what they want.
The magnet manipulation is honestly a pretty cool ability.
Yeah.
And they use it well.
I don't know, I think it's just better in the form of the One Piece Jiki Jiki no Mi. It's so much better.
But anyways, Gyro tells Johnny, hey man, you've got to use the spin on that lead bullet right there and hit him. You've got to do it.
Because lead is an iron, yada yada yada.
Yeah. And so he goes to start spinning it. And the guy, one of the boom booms, steps on his hand and prevents it. And he tenses up basically.
But it still shoots off with the power to spin.
But then we see little rotation marks in the sand from where his hand was. And then we finally get to see the spinning nails. Yeah, the strangest abilities so far.
Johnny's nails just start spinning.
Yep. He starts spinning, and he's able to shoot him, and he shoots the father and basically cuts his leg off.
Yeah, and at this point, Mountain Tim's like, oh, what's this? This doesn't make sense, right? And he's like, that means we must be in the Devil's Palm.
That's chapter 20, yeah. See, you segue perfectly in all my chapters. I appreciate it.
Exactly, because you do a very bad job explaining stuff.
Oh, thanks. And so, the sun hits Johnny, and Johnny's able to shoot him and actually jump away. And he's like, what in the world is this? How am I able to do this?
Yeah.
You know? And, crap. So yeah, they say we're in the Devil's Palm right now, and that's how he got the stand ability. And Mountain Tim says it's a stand. Johnny says it's a power of spin. So it's honestly a combination of both. It's a spin stand.
The way that I've seen this is like, or the way that I sort of rationalize in my head, Johnny has created this ability to spin these objects, and being that he has been learning how to do this, it has influenced what his stand has become.
Exactly.
That's how I saw it.
Because stands are basically a manifestation of your spirit and your soul. And so, Johnny focused on spin, and learning it channels into his ability. And so
That's actually pretty cool.
Yeah. And so we see that they're actually able to break away, and they're able to get away because this new ability that he's got is really powerful. I mean, these nail bullets can shoot pretty freaking hard.
And they've pretty much murdered the Boom Booms.
Yeah.
Right. There may be like one or two of them alive, but they're just dead in the desert.
But as they're running away, one of them says, "We have a 200K bounty on you, Gyro. Somebody's after you." And Johnny's like, "Dude, what in the world? You better tell me what this is."
As we get Gyro's backstory.
We get another flashback.
Okay, can I sum this back to flashback?
Sure.
Okay. Pretty much. Gyro's family is pretty weird. They are forced to work for the king to murder prisoners, right? Pretty much. Gyro gets told about this and Gyro has to murder people, right? There's a boy. This boy who's on these flashcards we've kept seeing, right? And on this news article. Apparently, he was working for a family who tried to murder somebody, so the boy got sentenced to death because, of course, the little kids had to plot the murder, right? Gyro's like, I don't want to do that. And thus, because Gyro's arguing, the king's like, you know what? You win this race, I'll give you a pardon.
You just summed up the rest of 20 and most of 21. Nice job.
Exactly. Because, like, it's very interesting, but there's not a whole lot to it.
Yeah.
I really don't like how Araki draws kids.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree.
It's very, like, weird.
It's very,
Granted, like, I'm not really a fan of the way he draws most of his characters so far. It's not really an art style I dig so much.
Okay.
Right? I mean, it's fine. It gets the point across, like, big muscular men doing their stuff. But it's like, I'm not really a massive fan of it, right?
And so, something to also realize is that Gyro's family is also trained in medicine and in martial arts because in order to be good executioners, they got to learn that stuff.
Yeah, and like something like they know all of the bones of a neck to be able to perfectly slice through it.
And another thing I noticed, did you know that Kid Gyro still has those weird beard patches? And so does his dad. They love growing strange beards.
Huh.
And he has a hell mullet. I'll give him that.
Yeah, Gyro did have a great mullet. I'll give him that.
And it's shown that the Zeppeli family creates these balls for peace and not pain. Because he's able to use the balls to spin the person and basically like put them in a comatose state, and they chop their head off.
It's sort of the same thing in Jigoku Raku, where there's the whole thing of, alright, we've got to be so good at using our blades, so whenever we murder people, they get murdered fast.
Yeah.
So they don't feel pain.
So then we cut back, and it's back in the modern time, and we cut to like a western town, like a checkpoint.
Yeah.
And this emo, kiss-looking guy named Oyakomava comes to stay at a hotel.
Okay. So, Jane, these are based on musical references,
Yes.
right? What are the Boom Booms named after?
I'm pretty sure they're named after a song named Boom Boom or something.
Yeah. Mountain Tim.
Mountain... I'm not sure what Mountain... I think Mountain Tim's a singer. But I do know his stand is Oh Lonesome Me.
That's a random name.
Yeah, it is. And then Oyakomava is named after a song, Oyakomava.
Great.
So...
Yeah, we're going to get into this part, and I'll give all my thoughts on this, but let's pretty much sum this up fast. Pin dude attacks.
Alright, so Oyakomava runs into Mountain Tim looking for Gyro, because he's trying to get to him.
Yeah, because this Omakomava dude gets there first. Gyro, Johnny, Mountain Tim arrive second.
Yeah.
They're all trying to heal up, right? Gyro and Johnny are out doing some stuff around the town. Mountain Tim's in the room. Omakomava comes in and, haha, I'm looking for Gyro.
And he finds a letter with a royal seal. That's how you know he's looking for him.
Yeah.
And so this guy obviously has to know Gyro in some way. And Mountain Tim's like, I wouldn't look at other people's stuff if I were you.
Yeah, to cut to the chase, pretty much this dude's another of the, what's it called, people?
Assassins, basically.
Yeah, he's the same
Bounty
thing as the
hunter.
Boom Boom sword.
Yeah. And so, Mountain Tim pulls off Oyakomava's skin and it starts growing weird hair and little timers start poking out of it, little pins with clocks on it. Very strange. And they find that on the letter that was sent from the king of the place that, Gyro's from.
Do we know where it's from, or is it like a spoiler story thing?
It's not a huge spoiler.
Isn't it from like Spain or something?
It's Naples.
Naples.
So, they're looking for a zombie horse, whatever that is.
Yeah, it's...
Yep. And Mountain Tim blows up.
Yeah, pretty much these pins are bombs.
Yeah, and that's how chapter 21 ends. So
because it's this whole thing of like, if these pins have to stay in your hand, and if they come loose,
that you blow up. Yeah.
Then you blow up, or the pin blows up and
Yeah.
you blow up with it.
So Mountain Tim is able to scatter his body with a rope in order to prevent from being just obliterated, basically.
To save some of them.
Yeah. And Gyro sees them, and they're...
Yeah, because Gyro and Johnny are down below, and Mountain Tim just flies out the window as a rope.
Yeah, so now the confrontation begins. So, Oyakomava accidentally is able to barely touch Gyro, and he says, "Long time no see." Oh my! Surprise face.
Yeah, Gyro and this Omakomava person have a pass.
And Gyro has the balls in his hand, and they start growing pins.
Yep.
And it's revealed that Oyakomava was a terrorist who blew up a carriage in Naples and was able to escape. He was going to be executed. And so Oyakomava knew Gyro because he was going to be the executioner.
Yeah, Gyro's going to kill Omakomava.
Yeah. And Mountain Tim says, the only way to defeat the stand is to kill the stand user.
And I should mention, throughout these chapters, almost every other word is bolded.
Yeah. At some points, it gets really ridiculous. But I think near the end, they lay off of it some.
Because at that point, the power system is well explained.
Yeah. So, Oyakomava is actually able to make a mouse into a bomb. And
I thought that was pretty cool.
Dude, the way that Araki's able to just use random things to make these abilities seemingly overpowered is great. And so, Gyro's pin starts slipping out of his hand because he's sweating. And so he has to, they're slipping out. He takes the pin and just stabs it right back into his hand.
Because it's got to go back in at the same place.
Yeah. And it fell out from underneath to where if he tried to put it back in, other pins would fall out.
And it's such a weird visual where, Gyro's hand is sweating as he's holding his ball. And, the pins are all weird and malformed.
Yeah.
And it's weird looking, man.
Bizarre, perhaps. And so as he's trying to
Jaden, we're done. We're not even finished recording this. I'm done. I cannot. No, stop. Oh.
You should name that the title of the video. Bizarre, perhaps.
Bizarre, perhaps.
And so,
oh, jeez.
As he's holding down with the sweat, he goes to throw the ball, and he's like, well, I'm going to blow up. Might as well make this one shot. He goes to spin it and throws it, and his hand actually does not explode. His leg does.
Yeah.
And Gyro tells Johnny, this is another lesson. You have to be able to move the energy in your body from one place to another with the spin, which is a very useful ability.
Yeah, I didn't actually catch on to that.
Again, spin does whatever the hell Araki feels like in the moment.
And to be honest, in the manga, I've only learned of what this spin is because of you.
Yeah.
Does it ever get, fully explained?
Good question. Next. Gyro goes, Oda! And throws his ball, which is another reference.
That was pretty cool. It's Oda!
Yeah.
It throws it.
Oda is a very common, yell in JoJo.
Yeah. It's also a big fight thing.
Yeah. And Oyakomava gets hit with a ball. And he gets disoriented from it, but he's not too phased by it.
Yeah, and Johnny and Gyro use this opportunity to go run to find his zombie horse, being that Gyro is out of a leg.
It's the race to get to the zombie horse first.
Yeah.
Because Oyakomava is badly damaged, Gyro and Johnny are both hurt, so is Mountain Tim.
Yeah, and it's this massive thing of, every single time these characters fight, they almost seem to lose a leg every time.
Man, listen, in Part 5, Golden Wind, I kid you not, in every fight, I think most of the characters come this close to dying. I'm pretty sure there's this guy, Mista. He gets shot in the head, I believe, 17 times out of 19 battles.
I mean, in Dr. Stone, it's a thing of where, these people get petrified and revived, right?
Yeah.
This thing, right? In Bleach, it's a common trend that characters just get their arm cut off or cut in half in very serious ways, but most of them are revived because of magic power stuff, right? Makes sense. Here, it's just okay.
Yeah.
Zombie horses exist?
Okay, so there is a healer in nearly every main JoJo part. Some kind of way. This one there isn't, so they gotta find some outside source. But there's usually a character with some kind of healing stand.
Yeah.
Anyways. So, final chapter, chapter 23. Gyro runs off, and he's like, Johnny, this is my fight. You do not have to come if you won't want to. And
Johnny's like, dude, we've been this far.
Yeah,
I'm coming.
Johnny wants to help. So already they've formed this mutual relationship of, we're going to help each other out throughout this.
Yeah.
And so as they're running along, they're running through this shallow pond area. Oyakomava just spills some bombs into the water.
Which is really cool.
Yeah.
Really, really cool. I think out of everything I've seen so far, this is a very interesting fight.
Yeah.
I think the character looks really stupid.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And I think sort of wrap this up, because sort of me too.
Yeah, we're
pretty
just
much
about done.
Yeah. So finish up, then we'll get my thoughts.
Okay, so they use the bombs in the water to accelerate. They're able to actually run past them fast enough to where
Which is really cool.
Yeah. And then, as they're running up almost like a very slanted waterfall thing, Oyokamava hits something. And they're like, what did he hit? Wasp nest. And now the wasps have bombs in them. So they're all flying around with timers.
Yeah, pretty much all these bees fly towards our main characters and incapacitate them.
And then Gyro throws one of his balls and does some more spin stuff by hitting a spider web. And it spins it and it catches all the bees in a net, pretty much.
Yeah, and also, while he does this, he throws another ball towards Omokomava, right? And he makes it sound like the air around him is buzzing like the wasps.
Well, not just yet. What happens is Oyokomava then smokes a cigarette and has bombs going through the smoke. And you see like some blowing up on Gyro's face. And so what happens is there's a bunch of smoke and there's a bunch of webs. And Oyokamava hears a buzzing sound and goes up towards it. And he finds out that they're Johnny's nails that are spinning. And they create this buzzing sound. And he's like, what in the world? There's no wasps. And Gyro says, haha, when the nails are spinning and the balls are spinning, it creates even more power. Throws his ball, accelerates even faster, hits Oyokamava.
Dead.
And then Gyro goes, one more shot, bam! And you get this shot, and there's these two balls just collapsing Oyokamava, and he falls out. And they continue on their way.
Yeah, so one thing I've got to mention about this, right? Probably my least favorite part of all of this. It is a constant struggle of, okay, one fight, next fight, one fight, next fight, one fight, next fight, one fight, next fight. It just keeps going on. There's no break to it.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure they also cut out a lot of the traveling time in between.
Yeah, which makes sense, but like, I wish there was something between the time here when Omokomava gets, or not Omokomava, but whenever like they defeat the Boom Booms.
Yeah.
Like something like to finally say, all right, they're dead. All right, let's head to town, everybody. And we see Gyro and them arrive, because we don't see Gyro and them arrive in town. It's just said they arrive as Omokomava bursts into the room to see Mountain Tim.
Yeah, I get that. JoJo's a very efficient story. It cuts out a lot of the fat in some areas.
Yeah.
And so it really, like, especially part 3, it was a stand of the week. Who are we fighting this time? Finish that one, on to the next one.
Yeah.
But
I mean, the powers are really cool. Like in this, we see the insect powers.
Yeah.
Interesting enough. Like, is that a stand or is that just like
the insect power actually isn't a stand?
Because it seems like there's abilities and then there's stand.
Yeah.
Right, and it's just weird, like how they're classified as well,
But
right?
as we go on, it's going to be mostly stands from here on out.
Yeah.
But rereading these chapters, I forgot how good this fight was. I think that both of these fights were quite well made.
Yeah, the Robinson fight really doesn't have anything to it.
The Robinson fight I couldn't care less about. But
Yeah,
I think the Boom Booms and Oyokomava was good.
I think the Boom Booms are like very bad characters. Like, I don't like them.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Mountain Tim's whole thing is cool, like trying to find these arch people. And like the way that they use the magnetic powers is cool. It's just like, it's just such characters I can't give two shits about where I don't care.
Yeah. But I think as we go on, we're gonna see better villains that have more motivations.
Exactly.
It's the beginning of the story. You gotta have chafe to throw at them. You know.
Yeah. And then Omokomava was alright.
All right. What would you rate these volumes?
To be honest, like, the best part out of this is probably for me the backstory of Johnny or Gyro.
Okay.
Like, it's probably the most interesting part to me, right? And then like the fight's interesting, but just like the design aspects, I'm not really a fan of. Probably give these volumes a 6.
Okay.
Because it's like, it's cool. Like, it's building up to something that seems interesting, right? Gyro's getting better. Mountain Tim seems interesting. It doesn't seem like he's going to stick around, though. And then Johnny seems to be just, he's getting better at using this power.
All right. I would give these volumes, in retrospect, obviously, probably an 8. I agree with some of your criticisms. I do. And it is very one after another after another.
It's very, yeah, it is.
But I think
that's probably my worst part about this.
I think later on I keep saying later on we'll get this, but I think that the story does slow down some.
Yeah. Strike is almost needed when a series is like this.
Yes.
You've got to have time for the payoff to have meaning.
Yeah,
I
agree.
Not just sit there like, oh, hey, look what we've got this time.
You know.
Oh, this was set up 100 chapters ago. Here's it in a small text bubble that's all bolded with quotation marks.
Yeah, that's our biggest criticism. Get rid of the stupid quotations, man. But yeah,
no, it's fine for some things, like, but maybe just the first time you say it.
Yeah.
Not every time you say.
Well, here's the funny thing. In the colored version, the text is red as well. So it's even more jarring.
Oh my gosh.
But that'll be all for me. We barely finished in time.
Yeah, because somebody said, yeah, we can do this in 45 minutes. All right, Yeah, man, it's been JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, episode 2, covering volumes 3 and 4 of the manga.
We'll be back with what, 5 and 6, maybe 7?
5, 6, maybe 7. Maybe if a special guest.
All right, we'll see.
All right, see you guys.
All right, see
It's
you guys.
Glowplasma 231 out.